A very good morning to everyone present here. A very warm welcome to all our participants, speakers, guests, and panel members. Uh, a very warm welcome to all of you for Wondernut Groundnut webinar, Prosperity Through Productivity, organized by the Solvent Extractors Association and IOP EPC in association with CLAFMA of India and SOMA. I would like to invite Mr. Chaturvedi to deliver the welcome address. Over to you, Mr. Chaturvedi.
Thank you, Harshal. Good morning, friends, or good afternoon or good evening, whichever part of the world you are present. Welcome to the first webinar being organized on Groundnut by C in association with IOPEC. I wonder whether I'm pronouncing the name correctly or not. I'm familiar with only IOPR. Anyway, and supported by CLAFMA and SOMA. We are happy to share that this webinar has attracted interest not only from India, but also internationally. We have almost 500 delegates attending this conference from India and from almost 20 countries. We take this opportunity of welcoming all the delegates. We are also honored at the presence of Food Secretary Shri Sudhanshu Pandeyji, as well as Madam Sobatakore, Joint Secretary in the Agriculture Ministry. Their presence reflects the importance which policymakers in the government are now giving to groundnut. We have christened groundnut as a wonder nut on account of its multiple uses. Groundnut doubles up not only as an oil seed, but also as a dry fruit. Gandhiji used to say it is a full meal and its nutritious value is second to none. Today, I noticed that even Sadhguru also feels that it's a full meal. Along with banana, he could possibly spend the whole day. Somehow, over the last few decades, this wonder nut did not receive the importance due to it and lost out to other oil seeds like soya. COVID and the huge upsurge in edible oil prices worldwide has once again brought focus back on this important oil seed. To give GN its due, we decided to kickstart this webinar. Corona has compelled us to do it online, but in future, I'm sure we would have more physical seminars. Friends, no one is certain about the origins of groundnut cultivation. However, there is generally a consensus that the first domestication of this crop took place in the valley systems of Parana and Paranagué River in South America. Today, groundnut is an important oil, food, and forage crop generally distributed in tropical, subtropical, and warm temperature zones. Early Spanish, Portuguese, Dutch, and German explorers found Red Indians cultivating this crop on many islands in Brazil, Bolivia, Argentina, and Peru. When were groundnuts introduced into India is a matter of debate among academicians and agri-historians. It is safe to assume that as South America was discovered in early 1500 AD, it is probable that the plant was introduced into India at the earliest in the first half of the 16th century. Groundnut occupies a very important place in the oilseed basket of India. As a matter of fact, in the 60s and 70s of the last century, it was the most important oil in our country. Not many would realize that Vanaspati ghee, which was the most important cooking medium in those days, was made entirely from groundnut oil. Folklore says that the importance of groundnut oil increased to such an extent that state government in Gujarat depended on groundnut oil stakeholders for their stable existence. The groundnut lobby was so powerful in the state of Gujarat. At a personal level also, I have found fond memories of groundnut. I came into the edible oil business in 1980, and the first thing which my guru, the late Sri Lalit Malhotra, told me was to go and meet Govind Bhai in Rajkot to understand groundnut and also keep a close track of Rajkot Telia, as that decides the price of other oils across the country. Just as currently the price is decided by uh, Chicago as well as Kuala Lumpur in India, those days it was Rajkot which was deciding the price of edible oils across the country in India. Just as we check the price of CBOT and KLC first thing in the morning today, we used to check Telia prices. Such was the importance of GN and its players. Even in the case of feed, GN meal was the most important meal domestically as well as in exports before soya meal replaced it in importance. No wonder India had many solvent extraction plants involved in crushing of groundnut. With the opening up of oil imports under OGL in the 90s, the preeminent position of groundnut got seriously compromised. It would come as a shock to many that GN, which contributed about 60% in India's overall edible oil consumption in 70s, now is less than 1.5% of our consumption. The solvent plants engaged in GN have long been either scrapped or diverted to other oil seeds. The onslaught of imported oils at practically nil duty in the last 2 decades gradually sounded the death knell of GN oil. GN oil became a niche oil as against a mass consumed oil, and its price rocketed, limiting its consumption. It became an oil which could be afforded only by the rich connoisseurs, more so the Gujaratis. High price also induced many unscrupulous elements as well, and it became difficult to procure pure groundnut oil. The situation now has undergone a sea change. Years of neglect of our oilseed cultivation by the decision makers who were lulled into complacency by low world prices ended up creating a situation where 70% of our consumption is now dependent on imports. No nation can afford to compromise its edible oil security to such an extent, and this realization is getting driven in the minds of our policymakers with the unprecedented price rise of last few months. Friends, every dark cloud has a silver lining, and this price rise has come as a blessing in disguise for our oilseed farmers. Groundnut is bound to benefit with prices ruling much above MSP, and after a very long time, groundnut oil is actually selling at par or lower than imported oils like sunflower. Exports of groundnut oil are booming, and India will probably end up exporting in excess of 2.4 lakh metric tons of oil, which is an all-time record. Even the exports of hand-picked seeds are booming, and we would see exports of close to 6 lakh metric tons of peanuts. At sea, we had mentally started treating GN as a dry fruit as opposed to being an oil seed. However, the recent changed equation has once again stressed the importance of groundnut. And if India is to achieve a semblance of Atmanirbharta in edible oils, groundnut has to be promoted. Being a high oil-bearing oilseed like mustard with a very strong acceptability in our country, time has come to promote it big time, and that's what we are trying to do. We are happy to state that Government of India has included GN promotion as one of their main agenda under National Mission on Edible Oil Seeds. To give GN the required trust, SEA has decided to promote GN on a war footing and once again help create the right ecosystem which will promote this oil seed. With our Prime Minister from Gujarat, we trust the required push at the policy level would be given by the Agriculture Ministry and the policymakers. Friends, the month of June has brought good tidings by way of reduction in the corona infections on the one side and very good advancement of monsoon across the country. We are confident the worst is behind us and we can once again look at the future with renewed hope. That's all from my side, and thank you. Thank you for the patient hearing. Thank you very much. Now, let me take the liberty of inviting Mr. Khushwant Jain, who is the chairman of IOPEPC. Am I right? Okay. The chairman of IOPEPC, which is the actually export body recognized by the Ministry of Commerce. Mr. Jain comes with him with a background of almost 27 to 28 years of experience in handling peanut exports. He runs a company called GS Exports, and they are one of the leading exporters of this country. Over to you. And this company, I'm told, has won many awards for being one of the top exporters of peanuts from this country. Over to you, Jain Saab. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Good morning and welcome to Sri Sudhanshu Pandeji, Secretary, Food and Public Distribution, Ministry of Consumer Affairs and Food and Public Distribution of Government of India. Madam Sobatakore, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture, Operations and Farmer Welfare, Government of India. Officials from APEDA, President Sri Atul Chaturvedi ji, Sri Kishore Bhai Tanna, Convener of Groundnut, members of Solvent Extraction Association, members of IOPEPC, speakers, media, stakeholders from Groundnut and Groundnut oil industries, Groundnut value-added product industries, trade, to today's webinar on Groundnut. It gives me immense pleasure to inform you that the Honorable Minister of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, during meeting with the stakeholders of EPCs, they have made a new target for the export, and they congratulate to Council for the effort in enhancing export and has set an ambitious export target for the country. We need to have a focused effort involving all in the entire supply chain, from farmers to all the supply chain. The trade association, the policy maker, government and unfilled political will to achieve this. As one of the step towards direction, C jointly with IOEPC has organized this webinar, Wondernut, the Groundnut. Government and other organizations are trying to address the key challenges of agriculture in India, including small holding of farmers, primary and secondary processing, supply chain, infrastructure supporting the efficient use of resource and marketing, reducing intermediary in the market. Groundnut is an important oilseeds crop in India. As everybody know, in oilseeds, groundnut is the largest export of groundnut from India, around 665,000 ton, around 600 to 700,000 ton every year. India is exporting the groundnut itself in the kernel basis. The value product, other product is extra, other than the groundnut. India should concrete on the value-added product related to groundnut product, and India has high export potentials in value-added products in foreign countries, especially in developed countries. The Council is continuously on process of promoting export of value-added products, groundnuts such as roasted peanut, peanut butter, coated peanut, and others. Different variety of groundnuts are used for different food products. Therefore, there is a need to have focus on the seeds quality. We are facing especially in groundnut, the quality of seeds is most of quality in India right now in the supply chain of seed quality is the mixed variety, where the international market we have to be identify the separation of the seeds quality. Hence, it is imperative to have a concerted effort to cultivate quality groundnut with export potentials. Government's extension arms should reach out to the farmer with new technology and farm support schemes. Farming for subsistence, which makes scale of economy in questions with majority of small holdings, low acreage of credit and prominent role of unorganized creditors affecting decision of farmer in purchasing of input and selling of outputs. Sustainable agriculture has been acknowledged as the most important component of the sustainable development. International organizations such as Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, the World Bank, the Consultative Group on International Agriculture Research has made sustainability the basic objective to the pursue in their future program in agriculture. There is need for the holistic approach to agriculture development in India. We need to adopt holistic farming and food system based on justice, reduction of cost, protection of environment, protection of traditional seeds and traditional knowledge, and production of safe and healthy food, as all these objectives are in conformity with each others. So we should adopt policies which bring together the achievement of all these objectives together. This is the real challenge and task before us. I would use this platform to urge all the industry stakeholders to stay committed to align our organization objective to be in the synchronized with nation's objectives. This can accelerate our growth in reaching the set agriculture and export target, as IOEPC is involved in the promotion of export of oilseeds and oil from India. C was formed to encourage and promote the use of solvent extraction oil and their byproducts in India and abroad. IOEPC and C would explore joint areas of interest in contract farming on pilot basis using good agriculture practice and good manufacturing practice with a perspective of generating quality product of groundnut in India. With this word, to ignite the thought process on enhancing groundnut acreage, production and export, I once again welcome all the present for this webinar, Wondernut Groundnut. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jain sir, for those wonderful words. I can assure you from the side of C that we are committed to promoting groundnut. And if we join hands with IOPC, then I'm sure the day is not far when our groundnut really takes off big time. Thank you very much. It gives me great pleasure now to welcome Madam Sobatakore, Joint Secretary in the Agriculture Ministry. Madam Thakur is currently handling a very important portfolio. Apart from her other responsibilities, she is responsible for giving the required push to the National Mission on Oilseeds, which we all are waiting for it to see the light of the day. And under her charge, I'm sure it will get the required thrust. She is not only a very efficient officer, but a lucky one as well. Needless to say that in all this doom and gloom on the economic scene due to COVID, agriculture seems to be the only silver lining. And agriculture today, I'm told, is actually, the growth is in excess of about 3.6%. And to cap it all, ever since she's been in the hot seat, we are blessed with very good monsoons. In fact, this is going to be the third very good and normal monsoon, and the current spread of the monsoon augurs well for not only the agricultural sector in the country, but for putting demand back in the system. Over to you, ma'am Thakur. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Chaturvedi, for those very kind words. Honorable Sudhanshu Pandey, Secretary Food, Shri Atul Chaturvedi ji, Shri Jain, Shri Mehta ji, and all the delegates who are attending this very important conference. I'm very honored to be part of this conference and addressing this very important topic. And many good things have been said about groundnut, so I won't repeat those positives. I would just like to share with you what the government is doing, what steps we have taken recently, and where we aim to take this production further. So as all of you know, though we are sufficient in food grains and our third advance estimates are very, very bright, we are going to produce around 305.43 million tons of food grains. For the oil seeds, though the production has gone up, and the third advance estimates are also to the above 36 million tons for oil seeds. In fact, the efforts of the government from 2014-15 have yielded good results, and the oilseed production has increased from 27.51 million tons to 36.51 million tons in 2021 as per the third advance estimates. There has been a renewed focus on oilseeds in the past 2-3 years, and the trend in area production and productivity is encouraging, but of course it needs acceleration at this point. As all of you know, groundnut is a very important oilseed crop, and India accounts for about 25% of the global area and contributes to 19% of the world groundnut production. And in India itself, it covers 19% of the total area under oilseeds and contributes to 26% of the production. The production of groundnut itself has increased from 8.03 million tons in the last 5 years to 10.12 million tons in 2021, which is an increase of 26%. And the area under cultivation too has increased from 4.88 million hectare to 6.6 million hectare, which is an increase of 23%. And the average yield of the last 5 years is 1646 kg per hectare, which is higher than mustard and soya bean. And as a result of the higher productivity and oil recovery, the groundnut contributes more to oil production than soya bean. And we continue to focus on groundnut because it is cultivated during all the 3 seasons. Kharif, the majority is being in the Kharif season, about 82% of the areas under the Kharif season. And we also cultivate in the rice fallow areas in the Rabi season. The average Rabi productivity of groundnut is 2081 kilogram per hectare, which is about 32% higher than that of Kharif. So we want to focus more on the Rabi because there is more productivity and we can use the fallow lands for increasing the area, which we call horizontal expansion. Of course, groundnut is cultivated mostly in Gujarat, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh. And Gujarat alone produces 47% of the total production. But other promising states are Karnataka, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Telangana. And Tamil Nadu attained the highest productivity of groundnut, which was 3742 kg per hectare during the Rabi season. So that was a very encouraging sign we saw in Tamil Nadu. And other states with good yield results are Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat. So there is a lot of scope to improve further in the yield. So now coming to what the ministry has done recently, very recently, we have drawn up an ambitious plan for the groundnut expansion and also productivity enhancement. A mention was made of the seed quality. Yes, we agree that the seed quality has to improve a lot. And for that specifically, the government has given a special focus. And now we are focusing only on the high yielding varieties of seeds to come in the seed chain. And eventually the seed replacement rate has to improve. So in this Kharif season, we have distributed 74,000 mini kits for groundnut. And in fact, the Minister for Agriculture, Mr. Narendra Singh Tomar ji, had an interaction with these farmers when we distributed the seeds. And the signs were very encouraging. They understood the necessity of the seeds to come on their fields and how it should be propagated to the other farmers as well. And they understood the importance of that the new varieties should be propagated further. So it was a very good interaction which the minister had with the mini kit beneficiaries. So as I mentioned, we have an ambitious plan to increase the targets from the current level to around 6.30 million hectare in 25-26, and the production to increase to 14.15 million tons in 25-26, and the productivity to around 2,000 per kg. So the main focus would be area expansion, productivity through these high yielding variety seeds, and also policy support for MSP and procurement. And the area will be expanded in the rice fallow areas through intercropping and other measures. The productivity enhancement is being taken simultaneously with the ICR to come out with more varieties for the different regions. So the 74,000 groundnut mini kits, they were distributed in 7 states, in 7 focus states: Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, Rajasthan, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, and also we gave some to UP. And for this, the government gave around 15 crore extra funds, and this will be totally funded by the central government. And as a special case, we've even allowed seeds from the state seed corporations to be distributed, which will be totally reimbursed by the central government. For the first time, we have allowed this also to encourage the state seed corporations to also produce better seeds. Because we have noticed that the state seed corporations need to really also get the higher quality seeds and distribute to the farmers. So they also have to come in the seed chain. So the varieties which have the higher yield potential of more than 22 quintal per hectare have been chosen, and they have to be less than 10 years old. These varieties have high yield oil contents and are resistant to major diseases. For example, the groundnut variety GJG22 is suitable for Gujarat. That has been included in the mini kits, and it has an yield potential of 26.26 quintal per hectare and an oil content of 51%. This variety is also resistant to collar rot and experiences less damage by jacids and thrips, to which the crop is susceptible. The cultivation of the high-yielding drought-tolerant varieties have also been included in the seed mini kits, such as JGN23, Kadiri 9, Grisham, Dharani, GKVK5, and Kadiri Amravati, which are early maturing varieties, and also Pratap Raj Mungfali. So what we did, we had intense discussions with the state governments right from the month of March, and we got a whole list of the seeds which were available with either the state seed corporations and the central agencies. And we drew up a meticulous plan district-wise and agro-climatic zone-wise, which seed is suitable for which district. And this was communicated to the states. And like I mentioned, the minister himself interacted with the beneficiaries, and the distribution has already started, and it will finish by 30th June. We also looked at many intercropping combinations of groundnut to increase the area for groundnut, and intercropping with crops like sesame, castor, cotton, pigeon pea, sunflower has been taken up. And our country has 20 agroecological regions, which each have unique characteristics which vary in climate, geology, soil type, and these behave differently for different land uses. So all this has been taken into consideration while distributing and allotting the seed mini kits. Apart from the seed mini kits, we have also identified 40 potential high yielding districts which the seeds can be given in 5 states, namely Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, West Bengal, Karnataka, and Chhattisgarh. And these districts are agroclimatically suitable for crops and are producing more than 1.25 times of the national average yield. So that's how we chose these districts. And even in these high potential districts, the seeds have been given free of cost, either from the state seed corporations, which we will reimburse, or through the central agencies, which we reimburse in any case. So in this year, for the first time, we have given a 3-year advanced seed rolling plan to the agencies and the states, and the seed chain, right from the breeder seed to the foundation seed to the certified seed, has been made and has been allotted to the agencies. And we intend to increase the seed replacement rate from the 22% to 30%. So we hope to achieve that this year. Cluster demonstrations will be taken up in the potential districts, and special reference will be given to water management techniques, application of micronutrients, biofertilizers, plant protection measures, and other good agricultural practices. And the farmers training schedule has been drawn up meticulously. And recently, Secretary Agriculture, Shri Sanjay Agarwalji, held a meeting with more than 300 Atma workers. They are responsible for extension in the districts, and with the KVKs and directors of training, and also the Ataris who head the KVKs. And we interacted directly with the scientists, with the Atma workers, and explained to them the need for good extension programs so that the farmers understand what is given to them, and so that they can also propagate the new seeds to the other farmers and reuse the seeds as better seeds in the subsequent years. So I heard about the greater coordination which is required between the IOEPC and SEA. I urge the IOEPC to have greater coordination with Ministry of Agriculture itself, because ever since I have joined as Joint Secretary, I have had no coordination with IOEPC. So I urge that coordination from the IOEPC to the Ministry of Agriculture. And C obviously does do a lot of coordination with us and does a wonderful job. And I thank you all for inviting me once again. And I wish this conference all success. Thank you.
Ma'am, IOEPC side, I will be try to get your appointment, and if you are available, I would like to come and meet you on 29th of this month. If you are available, we can.
Yes,
I definitely.
That is okay. You can fix time from my office, and I will be there. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for those wonderful words. And I'm sure if even 75% of whatever plan the Agriculture Ministry has, I think we are at least more than halfway through the Atmanirbharta as far as edible oil is concerned. I think wonderful experiences. And secondly, I just wanted to put across to you that as far as castor intercropping with groundnut is concerned, we have tried it in our model farms and it works wonderfully well. And this is what we are trying to teach the farmers, that it is not only the price which is going to double your income, it is also the intercropping which can help. And it works very well with castor because castor tree grows up and groundnut remains at the lower level. And by the time the groundnut is cut, the castor tree has actually gone up, and the castor harvesting takes much later in early June, early January or something. So I think it can work wonderfully well with castor. And I'm sure the ministry is working on that. Thank you very much once again for joining us in this webinar. Now, friends, it gives me great pleasure to introduce a wonderful personality, Sri Sudhanshu Pandeyji. He is the Food Secretary of Government of India. Sudhanshu Pandeyji as Food Secretary has brought a whiff of fresh air in the working of the Food Ministry. We have been dealing with Food Ministry for a very long time, but interacting with Pandeyji is a different experience altogether. COVID restrictions have ensured that we have never met him physically, but he has ensured interactions continue via Zoom and WebEx. We have recently seen him in action in getting the bottlenecks removed in import clearance by proactively getting FSSAI and customs on the same platform. Earlier, it was taking about 10 to 12 days for import cargoes to be cleared, and this period is now down to 2 to 3 days, shortening the problems of the supply chain. And in fact, in these times when vegetable oil prices were going through the roof, this has gone a long way in smoothing the supply chain. Further, the recent anomaly pertaining to tariff revision on palm and soya oil was also rectified at lightning speed. I have never seen Government of India changing a notification within less than 24 hours of its issuance. Thank you, sir, and thank you very much for joining us. Over to you, sir.
Very good morning to you all. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me. But today morning we had a very bad start, and I was in double minds whether I would be able to join or not. One of my very dear colleague, Mr. Guru Mahapatra, who was Secretary DPIIT, he passed away, and so therefore we are condoling his death. We had known each other for a long time, including his family. So this is really very difficult time that each one of us is going through. Notwithstanding what is happening due to COVID, life has to go on, and therefore I decided that the commitment that has been made to the industry, that should stay, and that is why I am able to join. All of you, and especially my colleague Sobatakore, who is very proactive, a very sincere, committed professional civil servant, has already highlighted as to what our government is trying to do. India is a large country with large diversity in terms of agroclimatic zones, cultural preferences, food preferences, and also the income differences, inequities. And therefore, ensuring food security to every section of society poses a very different kind of challenge in India. I recall my days in the Ministry of Commerce, where we could see even countries like Japan able to defend a duty of 700% on their sticky rice, a particular variety of rice that they consume, and they very jealously protect that rice in their country, and they have negotiated a very high duty of about 700%. Because they want to preserve that, they want to grow that, they want to support their farmers. Likewise, we have also seen that countries like United States of America, European Union, they also provide large support to their farmers through decoupled income support. Those supports are production neutral. However, those countries have also gone through a stage where in the beginning, the incentive given to farmer was also production linked. We have a very disproportionate mass of land to our population size, and therefore we have a unique problem. And therefore the opportunity cost for everything that we decide to do has to be very carefully weighed. Groundnut certainly is a wonder nut, and it is also considered a poor man's almond and cashew nut. And it used to be very, very affordable. Lately, its prices have gone up, which is very natural in a growing economy. Its contribution to, as many speakers told, to the Indian edible oil sector is also very high. But this is one such crop which almost can be grown in every state of India. And therefore potential to harness it fully is huge. We have seen that average productivity within India is almost 2.5 to 3 times in Tamil Nadu. And therefore, simply by ensuring that the gains of productivity, higher productivity, are equally distributed across the states, perhaps we can double the production of groundnut very easily. It is very easily possible to do. In order to ensure that we produce enough groundnut, it is equally important that it's not only the area-led growth. As I said, in a country like India, opportunity cost will always decide finally which crop is grown on which land. If the opportunity cost is not favorable, something else will displace that crop and another crop will come or another economic activity would come. And therefore, while the area-led growth is important, it is yield which is going to play a very critical role, because ultimately, if the yield is higher, then the return on the investment and the utilization of land will be low. Return on investment will be high. And therefore, perhaps a time has come, while government has been making investment in agriculture, it is time for the private sector also to a very proactive role in developing right kind of seeds, promoting those seeds, and holding farmers, investing in the infrastructure, agriculture infrastructure for cash crops like groundnut, so that its production grows faster, as my colleague said, than what it is growing. Our population expects that their growing needs, both on the food security as well as the taste differences that are gradually developing, they are also catered to. Groundnut is one such product which has vast variety of basically value-added products coming from it. And therefore, pressure on oil is also going to be high. Means you can consume peanut as it is, you can eat fried, dried, coated, peanut butter. Large range of new products are coming. Now cookies are also coming. If you see in the West, then you suddenly find Nutri-Bar is also coming, made from peanut. So whole range of new products are coming. So therefore, pressure on the groundnut per se is going to be high. And therefore, unless a sufficient quantity is also available for oil extraction, its contribution to the edible oil sector will not grow as fast as we would like it to grow. And therefore, increasing absolute production of the groundnut is critically important. India has a very strong diaspora. We have over 3 crore Indians settled abroad. And whether it is groundnut, pea-related products, there is a demand for them. And therefore, as Mr. Jain said, exporting to not only foreigners, but to our diaspora abroad becomes critically important. A lot of Indian products go abroad because there is a demand of Indians settled abroad. And now a large number of Indian students are also going out. And you have seen that all these factors are pushing exports of various products from India. As you know, that even in the milk and milk-related products, while we are not an exporter, despite being the largest producer, but because of the diaspora, even Amul cheese gets exported because that is bought by cottage cheese, and the Amul cheese gets bought over by Indians settled there. So the point that I'm trying to make is that the value-added products will continue to have pressure on the groundnut, and therefore surplus quantity of the groundnuts for the edible oil is going to be important. The monosaturated fat component being low in the groundnut oil also makes it a healthy medium of cooking. And since its taste is acceptable almost across India, and therefore the possibility of marketing this oil is very, very high. As I said in the beginning itself, How do we achieve this? In India, this is a difficult task. Why I am saying difficult task? That unless we create a right kind of balance, the pressure on policymaker is going to be continuous. The balance between the interest of industry, farmer, and consumer has to be right. And if there is an imbalance in any of this component, life of policymakers becomes very difficult. You have seen that the edible oil prices, as you said, blessing in disguise for the industry, but it has been a nightmare for the consumer. Think of an ordinary consumer whose disposable income is very little, but his basic minimum requirement of edible oil is still there. And if he is not able to spend that out of his income during Corona time, which further went down, then it becomes a very difficult challenge for the policymakers to settle. And therefore, while the industry and the farmers' interests have to be protected in order to make India Atmanirbhar, but also we have to collectively think that Indian consumer, who is also part of the same ecosystem, also deserves a better and competitive price, which is only possible, as I said, by increasing productivity and yield. Unless our productivity and yield goes up, which in groundnut we are somewhat better off, but still we are in the mid-range. We are not in the high yielding range compared to global yields. In late a couple of months, our effort collectively with agriculture, consumer affairs, and food has been that we also generate demand for edible oil to protect the vulnerable sections of society. And therefore, we undertook exercise with various state governments to encourage them and try to work out schemes to participate with them for distribution of edible oil. As Honorable Prime Minister says, not only Atmanirbharta, but also vocal for local is important, which means a particular oil which is grown locally should be promoted locally, because it is in sync with the natural conditions and also the requirement of that society, which has acceptance for that taste, and health-wise also it is good for them. And therefore, our effort is then in each state, I have been personally interacting with these state governments, and response so far has been very, very good, very encouraging. Maharashtra, Karnataka, in fact, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, they all are responding, and they are prepared that they would be willing to work out a scheme along with the central government, so that the vulnerability of the weaker sections of the society could be protected. Some of these states like Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, they are already distributing edible oil through the public distribution system. But in Tamil Nadu, that distribution has been that of the palm oil. So our request to them has been, and that has been largely imported palm oil, and why don't we encourage procurement of domestically produced edible oil? But for that, our oils will also have to be competitive, so that the government budgetary system can afford them, and gradually our dependence, as I always say, we very easily we can be self-sufficient in edible oil sector. It may take 10 to 15 years, but unless seed, which I think is central to the whole story, is looked at not only by the government research institutions, public research institutions, but also the private sector makes an investment in collaboration, and productivity and better quality seeds are introduced, which cater to Indian climatic conditions, we will not be able to achieve the goal in the desired time. I saw some of the sessions that are being organized today are very good. They are talking of rebranding of the oil. They are talking of nutritional security and contribution of the edible oil. Edible oil is extremely important. And for a country like India, our cultural and food habits are such that we use edible oil quite a lot, but still our per capita consumption is very low compared to global averages. And therefore, our collective effort on the occasion of this conference, focusing on this wonder nut, should be rededicating ourselves to making India Atmanirbhar in edible oil sector and promoting all locally grown edible oils for use in India. I'm sure industry and industry experts will come up with good ideas. Government would always be available to take suggestions from the industry, work on them, walk together so that we are in a position to realize the goal for India collectively. Thank you very much. Permit me to leave after this inaugural session. As I said, a very sad thing has happened today morning. So once again, thank you very much for inviting me. And I'm sure we will, through conferences like this, realize the goal that we are aspiring for. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for finding time. And in spite of the personal tragedy of loss of Mr. Mahapatra, I'm sure, thank you very much once again. But I would like to actually congratulate you on one other count. In spite of the edible oil prices going through the roof, your reading of the market has been brilliant, and you stuck to your guns and did not reduce the duty. And the net result is that the markets have collapsed and your decision has been proved right. So now happier days for the consumer are around the corner. And I'm sure as an association, we are very, very conscious of the fact that India, if it has to move towards Atmanirbharta, we have to work on groundnut, on mustard, on soya and palm. So these are some of the oils on which we need to seriously work on. And as an association, responsible association, you are willing to join hands with the government. As a matter of fact, we are already doing a little bit by way of promoting castor farming and having model castor farms and mustard farms in Rajasthan. And this year, we are going to be extending it to UP and maybe even Punjab. If we can convert the Punjab Haryana farmer to mustard, I think half the battle will be over and done with. Thank you, sir, once again, and thank you very much for joining us. You can leave now, sir, and you have a tragedy to attend to. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.